Could I ask now our last speaker for this morning's session, Adil writer, Indian artist, participating in the 6x6 exhibition that Kevin referred to. Just while Adil is coming down, could I say that there was an invitation to an opening of that exhibition today. That's been moved back tomorrow to the walk to the galleries. Because it's in the same area, and so rather than duplicating, we will just have the one event and visiting tomorrow, and that's on the lunchtime gallery walks. So no opening or event today, although the exhibition will be up. Thank you. And now it gives me great pleasure to invite Adil to take the stand.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you for inviting me over. We start with this talk that I'm a little confused about, what exactly to present under the title Asian Century. Following up Kevin's act is not easy, but we try. We were actually subtitled The Shadow of the East on Contemporary Ceramics. In my opinion, there's no shadow, it's more of an influence. And I'm going to be taking you, humor me as I take you crisscrossing across time and space, across oceans and continents. Several images you will be seeing will be of antiquity, very fuzzy and pixelated. Blame the World Wide Web for that. 2 centuries ago, India and China were the center of trade. Spices and cotton from India, silks and porcelain from China were the flavors of the century. If you stood by a port in Cochin 2,000 years ago, I'm going faster than these, sorry. 2,000 years ago in Cochin, South India, you would see ships arriving every day laden with gold, taking back fine Indian cottons, spices, and other luxuries to Romans, the kind of stuff the Romans at that point lusted over. Across these accounts were settled in gold and silver. Roman senators grumbled that the ladies used way too many Indian luxury goods, resulting in 2/3 of the Roman bullion being drained into India. These people actually were also a bit responsible for this, because in antiquity, the flowing togas of the upper class Romans were all made from Indian cotton. I couldn't find any images of people wearing togas, so I had to put this on, right? Sorry. Traders from Punjab, they crossed across the Himalayas through the 16th to 19th centuries, changing lifestyles of people from Persia, Arabia, Egypt, all the way to Europe. The Portuguese, they drained their loot that they had from South America into India. And India having a 5,000-mile-long trading coastline, it was easy for this to happen here. India actually has the power. India's power has always been not expressed through military conquests. We've never taken on over any countries, but through fair trade and ideas. In those days, Sanskrit was the language of the courts, of governance, of literature. At the same time, and the same period, Latin was so in medieval Europe. So we now leap over centuries to the British Raj in India, the reign of the East India Company, which led to the opium and silk trade from India and China. The East India Company, British, encouraged the growing of opium in India, which was carried across land all the way to China and traded for porcelain, spices, silks. The export of goods, the export of good quality soft cotton led to the dawn of Hang on. Okay. I'm running out of time, I'm sorry. The export of cotton, good quality soft cotton, led to the dawn of a new era in England, where the British started wearing underwear out of Indian cotton. That's the shadow. During this era, one of my ancestors, a Parsi gentleman called Sir Jamshedji Tata, and Mr. JJ, that was Jamshedji Jiji Boy, they joined these dusty caravans, that's Sir JJ, dusty caravans to China as a young man, and he became one of the wealthiest Indian traders of his time. We have statues of him all over the place. He became a famous philanthropist, his wealth being instrumental in the setting up of several institutions, hospitals, healthcare, education. College of Architecture, this is where I studied my architecture in Bombay. The embroidery skills and the embroidered silks that were brought to India quickly became fashionable as saris being worn by Indian ladies. These are ladies wearing garas, which are part of my community of Parsi ladies. And that's my grandmom and grandfather. I never saw him. Why am I telling you all this silky story stuff? Because let me introduce you to a very famous young friend of mine. He is a fashion designer from India, from Delhi. His name is Adil. And he has today revived the craft of a very special, specific kind of hand embroidery. His garments being lusted over by India today. Indian ladies wear things made out of this. What started out 2 centuries ago as a simple embroidered fabric has now become a fashion icon. So he takes something like this, which is an Oriental traditional design, and makes it into this. And to my advantage, this story veers around because Ashdeen, who makes a fortune out of these things, spends a considerable amount of money coming to my shows and buying my stuff. Someone remarked that he was at this show in Delhi and picked up some of my work. Someone remarked that in a way I was actually making money off the opium trade. So I don't think there's any shadow of the East on anything. Let's put this whole into an Australian context. Janet Mansfield introduced me to the world of ceramics in Gulgong when I was called for the Clay Edge Convention. This led to a meeting. You see some people who are sitting here. Janet, you have to see this picture. See this? This led to a meeting with Dr. Ichi Su. In Gulgong, and he invited me to organize a group of Indian ceramic artists, which from the time we met in 2007, we actually were there a couple of years ago. 18 Indian ceramic artists went to Phuping, where we made works for the first, this is a t-shirt I made for everyone, where we made works for the first Museum of Indian Contemporary Ceramics in China. Yep. In the last few years, we've had a group show of Indian potters at wood firing conferences in Tasmania. These are pictures of Phuping. This was the Janet Mansfield Award given to Tim Rowan there. Continental drift in Tasmania. These are Anagama firings in Golden Bridge pottery. You'll hear about this in the afternoon later. Fleur Shell invited me to Fremantle for building 2 fired stacks at the Beehive Montessori. And the last Subversive Clay Conference, I met Janet. We had a nice little chat together. I actually am responsible for, she's responsible for my being here today. And lastly, I wouldn't call this a shadow of the East on contemporary ceramics. I'm sure a European potter sitting among you will have a different take on the whole thing. So let's just say the world of clay has shrunk immensely with the advent of the World Wide Web. These are not shadows, these are ways ahead. Typical example of this is a show that opens in a couple of hours, tomorrow actually, it was to open today, and where we are three Indian artists, 3 Australian artists. We've selected craft objects of any culture and interpreted them as our own, making 6 contemporary pieces, bisque firing them and sending 5 of them to other 5 people in the group. So we exchange objects internationally and then we finish them our way. I still haven't seen what people have made, and we'll get to see all this tomorrow. Thank you.